This is topic 2, and we are now going to look at challenges to the Weimar Constitution 1918 to 1929. First up, we have the Treaty of Versailles, and this causes many challenges for many different reasons. So if you remember rightly, this is the document that is signed by everybody but Germany. So European powers get together, France, Britain, USA are there too, and they are deciding on the punishment that Germany deserve for losing World War I and starting the war to begin with. So the document is agreed at the Palace of Versailles, and Germany are not invited to attend and negotiate for themselves. They are sent this document and they are given 15 days to challenge all of these rules here. They do send their concerns back and they are completely ignored. So the first big problem here is that the treaty is dictated to Germany, and I'm going to talk about that a little later on. The next thing to remember is this sense of Dolchstoß. This is this one at the bottom here. So this is the German term for the phrase a stab in the back. They believe that this document was signed without the consent of the German people, and the politicians that signed this are known as the November criminals. This is because lots of Germans felt that there were many victories in the war and that the politicians had surrendered when Germany hadn't been ready to give up fighting. So let's have a look at the terms of the Treaty of Versailles. The first one is war guilt, and once Germany accept this, they have to take all the other punishments that come with it. So they have to admit total blame and guilt for the war, and this causes opposition because Germany are humiliated by this around the world. Many Germans at home simply cannot accept blame for this. Secondly, we've got reparations. Reparations just means compensation, and Germany had to pay £6.6 billion in compensation for the damage caused to the other countries during the war. Who would oppose this then? Well, just about everybody. The extreme parties really don't believe that Germany should have to foot the bill at all, and this payment is put on the German people and it comes via tax. Now, as you remember, after World War I, Germany is already not in a good state. They are in lots of debt and there is high unemployment, so it's quite hard to pay this money back. This means that Germany has less money, the German people have less money, and this leads to higher rates of poverty in Germany. So the normal people oppose this. Next, we have the armed forces. Now, these are grossly restricted, and this is another punishment to deter Germany from trying to re-establish an army and attack again to start another war. So the army is limited to 100,000 men. There is no heavy artillery permitted. They're only allowed 6 battleships and no submarines, and any remaining boats have to be scrapped. Further, they are not allowed an air force, and in a similar sense, all of their planes have to be scrapped. Further, there is land on the French border known as the Rhineland, and they are to demilitarise. They are not allowed to place their army there. Now, why on earth would these things cause upset? Firstly, the German soldiers are put out of jobs, so we've got higher rates of unemployment, which means the tax burden gets put onto the rest of the people who are working. So we have more poverty here. Also, it leaves Germany vulnerable to an attack. Germany do not like that they are not allowed to have an army in the Rhineland because they feel that France might invade them to punish them. So they feel vulnerable, they feel weak, and they feel humiliated. The next problem we have is Germany's loss of industry to bordering countries. So as part of the punishment, the Saar coalfields were given to France, and this is a big earner for Germany and they've lost it. So in part, this damages their ability to pay back those reparations. Also, Upper Silesia was given to Poland, and again, this is a iron region and it takes away Germany's ability to pay back these reparations. This also leads to more unemployment for its German people, which again leads to more poverty. It's also a humiliation as well, having these snatched from them. Next, we have problems with land. So Germany loses 10% of its population as land is given to Poland, Denmark, and France. Some Germans even vote to leave Germany in a public vote called a plebiscite, and this is kind of a humiliation to Germany. Germany are forbidden to unite with Austria again, and this is to limit its power. And also, we have German pride being hurt with Danzig being made a free city and being given to Poland. So, having less German people, so your population being taken, leads to less people to pay tax, which means you've got less people to pay back that reparation, which puts a higher tax bill on everyone else. So, we've got more poverty with less workers. Also, again, it's a humiliation as people are voting to leave Germany. Next, we have the German Empire. They have 11 colonies in Africa and the Far East, and they are taken off of Germany and divided up between the Allies. Again, this is more loss of pride and loss of income too. So, Germany's response to this was, I don't think anyone was really in favour of the Treaty of Versailles, and it's certainly not something Germany really had a saying, so there was this feeling of diktat. Germany are forced to accept these terms. It was not negotiated with them, so this really damages pride here. Again, as mentioned earlier, we have this feeling of Durchstoß. The German people felt that they had not truly lost the war, there was still fight left, and it is the November criminals who have stabbed the German people in the back by agreeing to such extreme terms. Okay, aside from the Treaty of Versailles, there were further challenges to the Republic. We have extreme parties on the right and on the left, and just as a reminder, if you're far on the right, you tend to be quite nationalist, you want almost a strict military control, and you do not want the communists in power. On the left, you want a communist government, a communist ideology in the country, so that's where there are no big businesses having power, and you want equality for the people. Both of these parties caused problems to the Weimar Republic from 1919 onwards. So it is just worth mentioning here that the DMVP and the KPD, who are our nationalist right and our communist left, they have political parties in the Reichstag, and they at times are actively working against the Weimar Republic to prevent it passing its laws, which causes the Weimar government to use Article 48, and this undermines democracy and makes them unpopular with the people. Next, we have the Spartacist Revolt in 1919, and this is an attack from the left, so from those socialists that are very close to communists here. They are called the KPD, and they are backed by the Soviet Union. There are 400,000 members, so we can see that there's lots of support for communism in Germany at this time. The leaders, Red Rosa and Karl Liebknecht, are leading a rebellion against the Weimar Republic. It happens after Friedrich Ebert sacks a popular police chief, and 100,000 workers are very much encouraged to go on strike, especially by Red Rosa. And this leads to the KPD taking over some of the newspapers and publishing propaganda about how weak the Weimar government are. Ebert is backed into a corner and decides to engage with the far right to help him bring peace back to Germany. So he goes to the Free Corps, who are a paramilitary nationalist group on the right, and they are going to help him bring control back to Germany. So they're armed, quite cross at the end of war men that are ready to have a fight. And they do, it's quite violent. They are able to put the Spartacist revolt down, and the leaders are executed. So Ebert has won this one. He has succeeded by getting the Free Corps to help him, but it shows that there are threats from the extreme left, and it also shows how fragile Weimar Republic really is. And the other problem is it leads to the Free Corps then running around Germany after the Spartacist revolt has been put down. After the Spartacist revolt, we have the Cat Putsch in 1920. So you will remember one of the terms of the Treaty of Versailles is that Germany were not allowed to have a big standing army, and the Allies were putting pressure on Germany to disband the Free Corps. So Ebert had to ask them to back down, to leave. However, they do not listen, and they are led by a man called Wolfgang Kapp, who is made the leader. 5,000 of these Free Corps soldiers are told to disband by Ebert because he simply cannot have them running around Berlin, and they refuse. So Ebert then turns to the people and asks them to go on strike. He wants to bring Germany to a halt, so things like electricity are not running, in order to get the Free Corps to leave. This succeeds because although the people don't really want the Weimar government, they really do not want an extreme national government either. So they agree to do what Ebert asks. So he has succeeded, but again, it shows how fragile the Weimar government truly are. And it makes the Weimar government look weak because they have to be rescued from the Free Corps by striking workers. The government has had to, as part of these two attacks, kill many people to stay in power. The middle classes do not like this extreme violence. Well, nobody does really, but especially not the middle classes. And they don't support the Weimar government. It also shows that extreme parties that have these private armies are gaining strength, which is a worry for the Weimar government. Next, we have ongoing political violence. So there are multiple political assassinations, 376 in fact, and there are attacks on both sides, from the right and from the left. So they are just going in and shooting each other at meetings. This does not make the Weimar government look very steady. Also, when some of these assassins are brought to court, we're finding that judges are tending to lean towards the right wing. They're being quite lenient on these extreme nationalist parties on the right, and they are not necessarily sending them to prison. Violence makes the Republic unstable, and judges are undermining the Weimar Republic by being lenient on these assassins. Finally, we've got both sides hiring bodyguards of sorts because of this political violence, and these bodyguards are, again, they're like semi-military men, so they're a paramilitary, they are quite violent, and it leads to more fighting. The next two challenges are the Ruhr and hyperinflation, and they are very closely linked. So the Ruhr region in Germany had about 80% of German coal, iron and steel. Germany are already feeling the pinch here because of the Treaty of Versailles and the loss of the coalfields in Silesia. They have very little income and they simply stop sending coal in 1922. The French retaliate to this by invading Germany. Remember, Germany were very worried about this. They were already feeling quite vulnerable. They go into the Ruhr, they confiscate the coal, and they even bring in some of their own workers. The government tells them to just passively resist and not to fight back. This means that Germany has lost their ability to earn income and their reparations aren't being paid. They've also now got a sour relationship with France and they aren't adhering to the terms of the Treaty of Versailles. This causes an increase in their debts, high unemployment and a shortage of goods, as the rest of the world simply don't want to trade with Germany. This leads to our next big event here, and this is hyperinflation in 1923. This is where inflation, where the price of everything goes up, is caused by the Ruhr. There is less money in Germany and taxes are high because there is so much unemployment. They are only generating a quarter of the income they need in tax. So the government decide to simply start just printing money. So there are many paper mills all over Germany that are printing out money, and this causes the value of the actual money itself to decrease. In 1919, a loaf of bread cost just 1 mark. And in 1923, that same loaf of bread will cost you 200,000 billion marks. So, really, paper money is losing its value, but the price of stuff is going up. What is a consequence of this then? Well, workers start to be paid twice a day as prices are changing by the hour. Sometimes we have women waiting at the gates of the factories to receive the payment from their husbands so they can quickly go and buy bread for the family. Foreign trade is damaged as there is a shortage of foods and goods. Germany simply have not much to export and people don't want to import things into Germany. Middle class people lose their savings. Foreign travellers, however, get a lot for their money because German money is worth so little, their money is worth quite a lot in Germany. This makes Germany feel humiliated, like foreigners are coming in to gawp at them whilst they are at their worst. Big businesses who have taken big loans see the value of their debt fall, so they are slightly better off. And we have hoarders who are stashing things that people need and trading in stuff rather than in money.